Case 1, Leilani Simon, Chatham County, Georgia, October 2022. Quentin Simon was 20 months old, a toddler with soft cheeks and curious eyes, a little boy who depended on adults for everything. He loved being held. He liked toys that made noise. He followed people from room to room the way small children do. He lived with his mother, Leilani Simon. On the morning of October 5, 2022, Leilani called 911. Her voice shook as she told the dispatcher her son was missing. She said Quentin had been inside his playpen. She said the front door had been left open. She said someone must have taken him. Cameras arrived quickly. Leilani cried in front of them. She begged for her baby's return, but investigators felt something wasn't right. The story didn't fit, and the data told a different truth. Where security video showed who was awake during the critical hours. GPS records showed where Leilani had gone. Soon, the largest search operation in Chatham County history began, not to rescue a missing child, but to find the body of a baby whose own mother had thrown him away. Leilani Simon was 22 years old. She lived with her mother, Billie Jo Howell, on Buckhalter Road outside Savannah. Her childhood had been unstable. She was mostly raised by her aunt, Jackie Madden, because her own mother struggled with addiction. Family members said Leilani was smart. She could pass tests without studying, but she could not hold her life together. 3 weeks before Quentin died, Leilani had been in a drug recovery center. She left. She wanted freedom. She wanted attention from her boyfriend, Daniel Incon, and then her son stood in the way of everything she wanted. 1 week before Quentin disappeared, his grandparents were granted legal custody. His father was Henry Bubba Moss Jr. A child support order also arrived, requiring Leilani to pay her grandmother for Quentin's care. 1 week. She was already on probation from Burke County for breaking into a neighbor's camper and stealing $50 in coins. Her life was closing in. And instead of facing responsibility, Leilani Simon chose violence. On October 4th, 2022, she argued with Daniel Incon. Later that day, prosecutors said she bought marijuana, cocaine, and Percocet. She used all three. Then she beat her 20-month-old son with an unknown object, causing serious injury. Quentin died. That should have been the end. It wasn't. In the early hours of October 5th, Leilani placed Quentin's body into a dumpster at the Alia Mobile Home Plaza, about 3 miles from home. She threw her baby away. Then she went back home. She waited. A few hours later, at 9:36 a.m., she called 911. She said Quentin was gone. She said someone had taken him. It was all a lie. Leilani killed Quentin because she wanted attention from a failing relationship. She believed that becoming a grieving mother would bring Daniel back to her. She murdered her child for attention. The search for Quentin became massive. Police drained the backyard pool. They searched the home. They interviewed family members and neighbors. On October 11th, investigators announced they believed Quentin was dead and named Leilani Simon as the main suspect. GPS records and video showed she was the only adult awake when the crime happened. That's then came one of the most demanding recovery efforts in Georgia history. On October 18th, the search moved to the Superior landfill. Officers worked through 1.2 million pounds of trash. Think about that. 1.2 million pounds. Day after day they searched. They did not stop. On November 18th, Officer Sophia Zerke found part of a small skull. DNA testing confirmed it was Quentin. They had found him. Leilani Simon was arrested on November 21st, 2022. She faced 19 charges, including malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, concealing death, and 14 counts of false statements. Her trial began October 9th, 2024. 36 witnesses testified. Evidence included phone data, GPS records, and FBI interviews. A former babysitter said Leilani had been abusive and did not love Quinton the same way she loved her other children. Yet the defense presented no witnesses. After 8 days of testimony and about 6.5 hours of jury discussion, Leilani Simon was found guilty on all counts on October 25th, 2024. She received life in prison plus 10 years for concealing death. She will not be eligible for parole for about 40 years. At sentencing, prosecutor Tim Dean said something that stayed with many people. She doesn't seem sorry. She seems sorry she got caught. Leilani Simon now lives inside Georgia's prison system. Quinton's community remembers him. The officers who searched through 1.2 million pounds of trash carry his memory. And somewhere behind concrete walls, Leilani Simon lives with what she did. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some hold photos. Some just try to breathe. Case 2, Tiffany Moss. Gwinnett County, Georgia, October 2013. Imani Moss was 10 years old. She should have been riding bikes, doing homework, laughing with friends. Instead, she weighed 32 pounds. Her organs had shrunk from starvation. She was too weak to walk, too weak to use the bathroom. And while she lay dying in a bedroom, she could smell cookies baking in the kitchen. Her stepmother was feeding her own children while Imani was starving a few feet away. Tiffany Nicole Moss was born July 20th, 1983. She worked as a preschool teacher at Freedom Christian Church in Lawrenceville. That's where she met Imani's father, Emin Moss. They married in 2009 and had 2 children together. Emin had full custody of Imani from a previous relationship. At first, the family looked ordinary, but in March 2010, Tiffany was arrested for beating Imani with a curtain rod after the child reported abuse to a school nurse. Tiffany pleaded guilty to first-degree child cruelty and received 5 years probation. She lost her teaching job. Prosecutors later said the loss planted deep anger inside Tiffany. In her mind, Imani had taken everything from her, and Tiffany decided Imani would pay. The abuse grew worse. In July 2012, Imani tried to run away twice. She told apartment staff she had been tied with a belt and placed in a cold shower. Child Services investigated, then returned her to the home. On Mother's Day 2013, family members saw Imani for the last time. Her hair had been cut off. Tiffany reportedly said, "If you act ugly, you should look ugly." Soon after, Tiffany announced she would homeschool Imani. The child vanished from public view. In August 2013, Child Services received a report that Imani looked thin. No home visit followed. That failure cost Imani her life. Tiffany began starving her. She kept Imani locked in a bedroom while feeding her own children. Day after day, Imani grew weaker. Can you imagine being a child hungry beyond words while food cooks in the next room? On October 24th, 2013, Imani suffered a seizure. She lay dying for 4 days. 4 days. On October 28th, Imani Moss died, weighing 32 pounds. The medical examiner said her organs were abnormally small from prolonged starvation. This was not sudden. This was slow. After Imani died, Tiffany and Emin hid her body while deciding what to do. On Halloween, they bought a trash can, charcoal, and lighter fluid. They tried to burn her remains. On November 2nd, Eamon told a friend and called police. Eamon later pleaded guilty and received life in prison. Tiffany chose trial. She represented herself. She did not question witnesses. She offered no defense. Jurors heard about cookies baking while a child starved. They found Tiffany Moss guilty on all charges. On May 1st, 2019, she was sentenced to death. She remains on death row. This case led to major changes in Georgia's child welfare system. Staff were removed. New rules were created. Investigations now require deeper checks. The changes came too late for Imani, but they may protect others. Justice arrived in court. Healing took much longer. Case 3, Alandre Hobbs, DeKalb County, Georgia, June 2023. An anonymous neighbor noticed an apartment door standing open. There was a strong smell inside. He walked in. In a bedroom closet, he found a stroller. Strapped into it was the body of 7-year-old Olivia Jordan. Olivia had autism and cerebral palsy. She could not care for herself. She depended on her mother for survival. Her mother was Alandre Hobbs. Alandre Denise Hobbs was 27 years old. She lived at Hidden Valley Apartments on Misty Waters Drive. Olivia was the oldest of 3 children. Alandre had a history of family violence. Relatives later said she kept people away from the children. Olivia needed help with every part of daily life. Instead of seeking support, Alandre placed her daughter into a stroller, rolled her into a closet, closed the door, and left. Not for hours, not for days. She moved out of the apartment while Olivia remained trapped inside. During questioning, Alandre told police she left Olivia because her life was too much. Her own life, not Olivia's needs, her own comfort. Olivia died alone in that closet from hunger and dehydration. Prosecutors said her death was slow and painful. Alandre left sometime between February 28th and June 25th, 2023. Nearly 4 months passed before Olivia was found. 4 months. Alandre lived elsewhere while her child remained in that closet. On June 25th, the neighbor made the discovery. Police took Alandre into custody. She admitted what she had done. On April 23rd, 2025, Alandre Hobbs pleaded guilty to 2 counts of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, and 2 counts of first-degree cruelty to children. She received life in prison with no chance of parole. Her attorney said she wanted to take responsibility. Judge Letitia Deere Jackson sentenced her immediately. Olivia Jordan did not get a second chance. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some build memorials. Some just try to keep going. Now take a moment. 3 children. 3 lives ended by people they depended on. And we are only at the beginning. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Case 4, Briana Cooper, Cobb County, Georgia, July 1st, 2021. It was supposed to be a quiet summer morning along the Chattahoochee River. Cobb County Fire and Emergency Services were at the Paces Mill boat ramp, running a water safety training exercise. They were filming a public service announcement. The river was calm. The day had just begun, when then one of the firefighters noticed something floating nearby. At first they thought it was debris. They pulled it closer. It wasn't debris. It was a child, a 19-month-old toddler. This is the story of Briana Cooper. Briana Laquan Cooper was 27 years old. She lived in Stone Mountain, Georgia. She was the mother of at least 2 children. Her baby boy, Fahem, was 19 months old. He had an older sister. On the surface, Briana looked like many struggling young mothers trying to make it day by day. But her phone told a different story. In the month before Fahem died, Cooper searched for foster care information. She searched for details about the Chattahoochee River. These were not random searches. They showed planning. They showed preparation. June 26th, 2021. Between 5:57 p.m. and 8:08 p.m., a 2-hour window that would change everything. Briana Cooper drove to the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area near the Paces Mill unit. She brought Fahem with her. During those 2 hours in that quiet area by the river, Cooper suffocated her 19-month-old son. She watched him die. Then she placed his body into the water. After that, she went home. For 5 days, no one knew Fahem was gone. Briana did not report him missing. She did not call police. She lived her life as usual while her son's body remained in the river. Then firefighters found Fahem during their training exercise. Once news outlets reported that a toddler had been recovered from the river, Briana made a move. She didn't call 911. She called the Cobb County Police Department's non-emergency line. She said she wanted to identify the child. When detectives spoke with her, Briana told them a long story. She said a man had taken Fahem because she owed him money. She said she was afraid to call police. She claimed she had been staying at motels and that the man had taken Fahem from one of those places. It sounded detailed, it sounded practiced. But it wasn't true. Security video from the motels showed no sign of Fahem, no sign of a kidnapping. GPS records from Briana's own car placed her at the Chattahoochee River during the exact window when Fahem died. The data did not change. The timestamps did not change. Briana Cooper had been at that river with her son. Then came another piece of truth. Her older daughter spoke with investigators. This little girl, who had no reason to lie, told police that her mother had said their time with Fahem was done before he died. And a child shared what she had heard. That mattered. Briana Cooper was arrested the same day Fahem's body was found. In August 2021, a grand jury charged her with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and concealing death. The evidence was strong. Phone searches, GPS records, security video, her daughter's statement. Everything pointed in one direction. On July 19, 2023, Briana Cooper pleaded guilty to 1 count of malice murder, 1 count of aggravated assault, and 1 count of concealing death. Judge Kelly S. Hill sentenced her to life in prison. Cobb County District Attorney Flynn Brody Jr. spoke afterward. He said it was beyond understanding for anyone to take the life of a child, especially a mother. Senior Assistant District Attorney Stephanie Green added that it was hard to accept that anyone could do this to a baby. The Fahem's life ended beside a river. His sister now grows up without him. Briana Cooper now lives inside Georgia's prison system. She has many years ahead of her to think about that 2-hour window by the water. Many years to remember Fahem's face. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some hold on to photos. Some just try to keep moving forward. Case 5. Brittany Hall and Celeste Owens, Gwinnett County, Georgia. November 2021. It began inside a hotel room in Norcross, a Homewood Suites, where 2 women lived with 3 young children. To outsiders, it looked temporary. just a place to stay. Inside, something was very wrong. The children were covered in bruises, some fresh, some older. They were thin. They were afraid. And the two adults responsible for their care were recording what they were doing. 8-year-old Amari Hall was one of those children. She depended on her mother for safety. Her mother was Brittany Nicole Hall. Brittany was 31 years old. Her partner, Celeste Owens, was 32. They lived together in that hotel with Hall's 3 children. Brittany said she homeschooled them. That meant no teachers, no counselors, no one checking in. Brittany was already on probation for felony theft and assault. Even then, the system did not step in. The harm inside that hotel room did not happen once. It happened again and again. Investigators later found more than a dozen nanny cam videos on Celeste Owens's phone. The recordings showed both women beating the children. Not discipline, repeated attacks, punches, kicks, objects used. The cameras captured it. They kept the videos. They did not stop. On November 19, 2021, 8-year-old Amari Hall died from blunt force injuries. The medical examiner classified her condition as battered child syndrome. She had broken ribs, internal bleeding, and signs of long-term hunger. Her body told the story, but the final moment came from her own mother. Amari's younger sister later testified that she watched Brittany shove toilet paper into Amari's mouth so she would not wake up. A child had to tell the court how her sister died. That memory will stay with her for the rest of her life. After Amari died, Brittany Hall and Celeste Owens wrapped her body in 3 white trash bags. Celeste rented a U-Haul truck. They bought bleach and gloves. Then they drove Amari's body to a wooded area near Stone Mountain Freeway in DeKalb County and buried her in a shallow grave. After that, they returned to the hotel. They called police and said Amari was missing. They told officers she had run away and that the door had been left open. They believed they had fooled everyone. They had not. Gwinnett County Police arrived and noticed problems right away. The stories did not match. The timing did not make sense. The children who survived were scared. After careful questioning, they spoke about what they had seen and lived through. Investigators took Celeste Owens's phone. Inside were the nanny cam videos. They also found online searches. What to do when a child doesn't listen? Lakes near me. How do sewers on the street work? How do I report someone missing? The searches showed planning. They showed awareness. The phone also held U-Haul rental details. Security video confirmed Celeste picking up the truck and driving toward DeKalb County. Officers checked the mileage. It matched the distance to where Amari was found. 27 miles. Within days of the missing child report, police located Amari's body in the woods. In December 2024, Celeste Owens went to trial. The jury found her guilty on 20 counts, including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, 11 counts of cruelty to children, concealing death, and false statements. She received life in prison plus 235 additional years. She will never return to ordinary life. On September 23, 2025, Brittany Hall pleaded guilty to felony murder, 11 counts of cruelty to children, concealing death, and false statements. She also received life in prison. District Attorney Patsy Austin Gatson spoke afterward. She said Brittany failed to protect her children and took part in the abuse. Amari's 2 surviving siblings will grow up carrying what they witnessed. The recordings will remain as proof of what happened inside that hotel room. And Brittany Hall and Celeste Owens now spend their days inside prison walls, separated from the world they harmed. 2 adults, 1 child lost. 2 more children left with memories no child should carry. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some search for peace. Some just try to hold on. Now let's move to Case 6. Case 6, Sophia Williams. DeKalb County, Georgia, March 2022. Anthony Weiss was 4 years old. He was learning how to use the bathroom on his own. Many children struggle with that stage. It takes patience. It takes kindness. Anthony lived with his mother, Sophia Williams. On the afternoon of March 5th, 2022, Sophia became angry. Instead of guiding her son, she hurt him. She later admitted she used her hand, a house slipper, a purse strap, and a charging cord. She beat her 4-year-old child. Afterward, Anthony became dizzy. He collapsed. He could not stay awake, and most parents would have called for help. Sophia did not. She placed Anthony on a bed and poured water on him, trying to wake him. For a moment, he responded. Then he faded again. Through the night, Anthony lay there. His body jerked at times. He barely moved. While her son was fading, Sophia searched online for information about concussions and comas. She knew something was wrong. She knew he needed medical care. Still, she did not call 911. A 13-year-old was also inside the apartment that night. That child later told police that Sophia had beaten Anthony earlier in the day. Around 5 a.m. on March the 6th, Sophia woke up and found Anthony making grunting sounds. He was limp. He had stopped breathing. Even then, she waited. 38 minutes passed before she called for help. 38 minutes. Emergency workers arrived. But Anthony had no heartbeat. He was gone. Medical staff later said Anthony likely would have survived if Sophia had taken him to a hospital after the beating. The cause of death was blunt force injury to the head. Responders saw bruises all over his body. Some were new, some were older. This was not the first time Anthony had been hurt. This had been happening. A jury heard the evidence in August 2025. On August 27th, Sophia Williams was found guilty of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 4 counts of first-degree cruelty to children, and 3 counts of aggravated battery. The facts were clear. On December 9th, 2025, Judge Asha F. Jackson sentenced Sophia Williams to life in prison, plus 10 more years. At sentencing, the judge said this was the most gruesome crime she had seen in 14 years on the bench. 14 years. Sophia Williams now lives inside Georgia State Prison. She will not walk free. Anthony Weiss will not grow older. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some hold on to small memories. Some struggle to understand how a parent could make choices like these. And we continue. Now let's move to Case 7. Now, Case 7, Mary Catherine Smith, Richmond County, Georgia, July 2014. Mason Smith was 2 years old. He was at the age where children follow their parents from room to room, where they carry toys everywhere, where they fall, get back up, and keep going. Mason lived with his mother, Mary Catherine Smith. Mary was a licensed practical nurse. She had medical training. She knew what head injuries looked like. On July 30th, 2014, Mason suffered a serious head injury inside their home near Augusta. Mary later told police that Mason had fallen during a breath-holding episode. She said she heard a noise and found him on the floor. But investigators learned something else. After Mason fell, Mary picked him up and shook him, trying to wake him. She also struck his face. Those actions made his condition worse. Instead of calling for help, Mary placed Mason on a bed. Then she waited. 3 hours passed. 3 hours. During that time, Mason's brain was swelling. He vomited. His eyes rolled back. He was stiff and unresponsive. Mary's boyfriend, Jeremy Kitchens, was present. He heard the fall. He saw Mason's condition. He changed sheets after Mason became sick. Neither adult called 911. Mary checked Mason's oxygen levels with a device. She monitored him. She knew he was in danger. She still did not call for emergency care. Investigators later said Mary delayed because she would have failed a drug test for methamphetamine. She was worried about losing her nursing license. Her own child lay dying while she protected herself. Eventually, Mason was taken to the hospital. He died on August 2nd, 2014, and the medical examiner ruled his death a homicide caused by head trauma inflicted by others. The injuries did not match Mary's explanation. Mary Catherine Smith was arrested on August 1st, 2014. At first, she was charged with cruelty to children. After the autopsy confirmed homicide, the charge was raised to murder. Her trial began August 16th, 2016. Jurors heard that Mary had medical training. They heard that she understood how serious Mason's condition was. They heard about the 3-hour delay. They found her guilty. Mary Catherine Smith received life in prison plus 40 additional years. She now lives inside Georgia's prison system. Mason's life ended at 2 years old. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some replay every moment. Some ask what they could have done differently. And we keep going. But now let's move to Case 8. Case 8. Kelly Gissendaner. Gwinnett County, Georgia. February 7th, 1997. Douglas Gindaner came home from work that evening expecting an ordinary night. He pulled into his driveway. He reached for his keys. Then a man stepped forward with a knife. Douglas was forced into his own car and driven to a wooded area near Harbins Park. There he was struck in the head with a nightstick and stabbed several times. As Douglas lay dying, the man later said he told him he was sorry. That man was Gregory Owen. But the person who planned it all was Douglas's wife, Kelly Gisender. Kelly Renee Gisender was born March 8, 1968. She grew up in North Georgia in a family with little money. Court records later described abuse during her childhood. Those early years were filled with hardship, when none of that explains what came next. Kelly married Douglas in 1989. They had a daughter together. The marriage struggled. They divorced in 1993, while Douglas was serving in the Army overseas. They later reunited and remarried in May 1995. In December 1996, they bought a home together in Auburn. From the outside, it looked like a fresh start. But Kelly had already begun a relationship with Gregory Owen. In November 1996, Kelly told Owen she wanted Douglas out of her life. Owen suggested divorce. Kelly refused. She wanted Douglas gone. She also wanted the house, and she wanted the insurance money. On February 7th, 1997, Kelly drove Owen to her home and handed him the weapons, a nightstick and a hunting knife. She gave him directions on where to wait and when Douglas would arrive. Then she left to spend time with friends, creating an alibi. Owen waited. When Douglas arrived, Owen carried out the attack exactly as Kelly had planned. Afterward, Kelly went to the scene to confirm Douglas was dead. She needed to see it herself. They burned Douglas's car and worked together to hide his body. The next day, Kelly reported Douglas missing. She told police there were no problems in their marriage. She denied any life insurance policies. Both statements were false. On February 24th, Gregory Owen told police what had happened. He explained that Kelly had started the plan, provided the weapons, and guided every step. Kelly was arrested the following day. Before trial, both Owen and Kelly were offered plea deals. Owen accepted. Kelly refused. She went to trial. Owen testified in detail about Kelly's role. He told jurors how she had set everything in motion, and the evidence left little room for doubt. Kelly Gesender was found guilty of malice murder on November 18, 1998. She received a death sentence the next day. Gregory Owen received life in prison and later became eligible for parole consideration. Kelly spent years on death row. During that time, something changed. She enrolled in theology studies through a prison program connected to Emory University. She completed a full degree. She wrote letters. She helped other inmates. She formed a group called Struggle Sisters to support women inside the prison. Officers and fellow prisoners spoke about the person she had become. Even theologians from overseas wrote on her behalf. So did religious leaders. They asked for mercy. The Georgia Board of Pardons and Paroles said no. Kelly Gesender was executed by lethal injection on September 30th in 2015. She was 47 years old. Her final words included an apology to Douglas's family. As the medication took effect, she sang Amazing Grace. She became the first woman executed in Georgia since 1945. Her case sparked national discussion about punishment, forgiveness, and whether people can truly change. Gregory Owen remains in prison. Kelly Gesender will never leave the place where her life ended. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some wrestle with questions that have no simple answers. Justice came through the courts. Peace came more slowly. Now let's move to Case 9. Case 9, Lamora Williams, Atlanta, Georgia, October 13th, 2017. Just before midnight, a woman called 911. She was crying. Her words rushed together. She said she had come home from work and found her 2 toddler sons dead. When Atlanta police arrived at the apartment, they walked into something they would never forget. 1-year-old Jakarta Penn and 2-year-old Kayante Penn were on the floor. Both children had severe burns. Their heads were inside a tipped-over oven. A third child, 3-year-old Jamil Penn Jr., was alive. He had watched what happened. Lamora Williams was 24 years old. She was the mother of 3 children. Family members later said she had struggled with mental health issues. That does not explain what happened next. Lamora told police she had left the children with a caregiver earlier that day. She said she came home to find the boys dead and the caregiver gone. It was not true. Autopsy reports showed the boys died from prolonged exposure to extreme heat. This took time. This was not quick. Before calling 911, Lamora made a video call to the children's father, Jamil Penn. She showed him the bodies. He then called 911 himself. That call changed everything. If Lamora had just discovered the boys, why show their bodies first? Investigators quickly learned Lamora had been home with the children all day. There was no caregiver. Lamora Williams had placed her sons into the oven. Her trial took place in Fulton County Superior Court in October and November 2024. Jurors heard expert testimony about how long the boys suffered. They heard the 911 calls. They learned about the video call. The evidence left no doubt. Lamora Williams was found guilty on 14 counts, including murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, cruelty to children, concealing death, and giving false statements. On November 15, 2024, she received life in prison plus 35 additional years. She will never walk free. 3-year-old Jameel Penn Jr. carries memories no child should have. First responders remember that apartment. Families in Atlanta remember Jakarta and Kayante. Lamora Williams now lives inside Georgia's prison system. Some families turn to prayer after losses like this. Some search for peace. Some try to build new lives from broken pieces. One case remains. Case 10, Melody Walker Ferris, Cherokee County, Georgia. July 2018. Gary Wayne Ferris was a respected attorney. He lived on a 10-acre farm property near Canton with his wife of 38 years, and Melody and their family. They had 4 adult children together: Chris, Scott, Emily, and Amanda. From the outside, they looked successful, established, secure. Inside the marriage, things had fallen apart. Gary slept in the basement because of severe sleep apnea. Melody had been involved in a relationship with a man named Roy Rusty Barton since 2014. Family members knew. Friends knew. At their daughter Emily's wedding, Melody invited Rusty to the reception. She danced with him. Gary watched. Gary stayed. On July 3, 2018, a witness heard Melody shout, "I can't wait till that man's dead." Hours later, Gary disappeared. Melody told police she had last seen him when he asked about dinner. Investigators later built a very different timeline. They said Melody shot Gary inside the kitchen. He tried to move toward the basement. She followed and shot him again. Gary died inside his own home. Melody then moved Gary's body about 50 yards to a burn pile on the property. She poured accelerant and set it on fire, trying to destroy evidence. 2 days later, grandchildren asked where their grandfather was. Their son Scott searched the property. He found human remains in the ashes. A bullet was lodged in Gary's rib cage. The Cherokee County Sheriff's Office led the investigation with help from state agencies. They collected over 200 pieces of evidence. Blood was found on the kitchen floor. More blood was found on the stairs and in the basement. Phone location records showed Gary's phone moved from the house to the burn pile during a period when only Melody was present. The witnesses also said Melody told her lover Rusty Barton that Gary was in the burn pile before his body had officially been discovered. She knew where he was because she put him there. Melody was arrested on June 18, 2019. Her trial took place in October 2024 and lasted 18 days. Prosecutors called 36 witnesses. 3 of Melody's 4 children testified against their own mother. Only Amanda spoke in Melody's defense. The defense suggested that Scott was responsible. Phone data showed he was not on the property at the time. After 3 days of jury discussion, Melody Walker Ferris was found guilty of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, concealing death, and making false statements. She received life in prison with parole eligibility after 30 years, plus 5 additional years. At sentencing, Melody accused her son Scott of killing his father. Scott denied it. Even then, she blamed someone else. Melody Ferris now lives inside Georgia State Prison. She continues to maintain her innocence while her children grieve the father she killed. 10 cases, 10 lives taken by partners who were supposed to protect them. From Quinton Simon, whose mother placed him in a landfill, to Leilani Moss, who starved while cookies baked nearby. From Olivia Jordan left alone in a closet, to Fahim Penn taken to a river. From Amari Hall beaten inside a hotel room, to Anthony Weiss, hurt during potty training. From Mason Smith denied medical care, to Douglas Gendaner killed for money. From Jakarta and Kayante Penn, lost in an apartment in Atlanta, to Gary Ferris burned on his own property. These cases span from 1997 to 2023 across Georgia counties, including Chatham, Gwinnett, DeKalb, Cobb, Fulton, Richmond, and Cherokee. 2 women received death sentences. 1 was carried out. 1 remains on death row. 5 received life sentences with no chance of release. 4 received life with parole eligibility decades away. 9 of these 10 cases involved children. Patterns repeat: ignored warning signs, delayed calls for help, false stories, phones and GPS telling the truth when people would not. Some cases led to changes in child welfare policies. Some sparked national discussion about punishment and forgiveness. All of them changed families forever. The names Quinton Simon, Leilani Moss, Olivia Jordan, Fahim Penn, Amari Hall, Anthony Weiss, Mason Smith, Douglas Gendaner, Jakarta Penn, Kayante Penn, and Gary Ferris deserve to be remembered. These stories are not about headlines, they are about people. If you've stayed with us through this, thank you. Some families turn to prayer after losses like these, some search for meaning, some hold on to hope. Evil does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it grows where love once lived. What does justice mean when families are already broken? Do you believe healing can still happen? Thank you for watching.